This is issue 10. Issue 10 with the fro splitting a piece of wood, opens up, the photo runs along the back.
Very cool.
So this one is full of, we have green woodworking in here, we have some riving, we have different things in here. So that's what the cover is reflecting. The table of contents, we have Will Wheeler. Will has apprenticed Kenneth Courtmeyer, and he was making a chair, and it's sort of a reflection not just on chair making, but on modern apprenticeship and the interesting way that he got a craft grant to be able to apprentice under Kenneth and how that all works together. So Will was talking about that. Jeff Miller then replicated David Pye's fluting engine, it's called. If you know, David Pye made these bowls that had carved, gouged centers like this, and it was with this crazy tool machine, hand-powered machine thing that he called his fluting engine. So Jeff reproduced that, wrote about it. Totally crazy, fascinating article. Then we called John Ruskin, and John Ruskin wrote an article for us called Savageness. Of course, this is an excerpt. John Ruskin's dead. We have no connections to him. But fascinating article, kind of set the tone for so many people thinking about the difference between sort of an industrial production and, this craft apprenticeship heritage, how all that worked out. Then I wrote an article called Ready Hands. It's actually written as a letter to my 3 sons. I wrote this letter as I was learning how to make nails so I could build a firewood box for our house. I still use. So I wrote this letter to my boys as a call to not depend on technology, but to learn hand skills. And so this is a way of doing that. Then George Walker wrote about essentially the way that tools are designed and that they teach us about the artisanal mindset. So we look at a tool's shape and design and the details of it, and not to overlook them as irrelevant or just taste, but how they actually show us something about the wisdom of those who use these tools. Then we examined an early 1700s William and Mary gate leg table. As we always do, backside, underside, all the nooks and crannies, all the stuff you don't see in normal museum photography or in the museum. We show all that stuff, show you the guts of what handmade furniture really looks like. Then Mike wrote an article about weaving cattail rush seats. We actually went down to my pond, harvested cattails, and we studied under a man who was an expert in cattail seats. And Mike traces out the whole process from beginning to end, all the steps to be able to do it, because it's not the same thing as modern fiber rush. What else do we have here? Joseph Verhees wrote an article called Walking with Wood. And essentially, I think of this as a big poem with beautiful photography. It's a deep, deep reflection, a poetic, and actually there are some poems scattered throughout it, a deep reflection on learning how to hew, learning how to understand the wood fibers. And it's just a beautiful piece, working with carpenters who are hewing timbers with axes. Then lastly, W. Patrick Edwards. We interviewed Patrick Edwards, writing about his reflections on 50 years as a furniture conservator, working on antiques, seeing just about everything there is to see. He's seen it. And it's this life's work reflection that is just a beautiful thing to capture and share.
Yep. So one article that really stands out to me in this issue, and it's because reading it and studying it really was formative for us in this issue and beyond, is this article by John Ruskin, Savageness. And I find this to be just such an imposing piece of furniture with the stark title. It's just awesome. But Ruskin was a very, very thoughtful man. Many people consider him to be the most important English writer of the Victorian era. He thought about craftsmanship. He thought about design and architecture, and just had a lot to say about
gargoyles.
And gargoyles, yeah. If you want gargoyles, you got to come to issue 10. We've got gargoyles. But why gargoyles? Why are they important? Why does it matter how they carved them? And the fact that the individual craftsperson had freedom to carve gargoyles however they wanted. And he talks a lot about that. Freedom in craft and the beauty, the value of the rustic and the value of the coarse and the savage. And there's just a lot in this article to think about.
The one that stands out to me is Jeff Miller's article about David Pye's fluting engine,
Mm.
mostly because it's so crazy. Like this thing is a crazy design of David Pye's invention that what's fascinating about it to me, and also to Jeff, he talks about this in the article, that it's not just that this tool was this interesting thing over here. Oh, and by the way, he also wrote some craft philosophy books. No, that this fluting engine is sort of an embodiment of his craft philosophy. It's this relationship of certainty guiding through jigs, but then there's this risk element to it. So he created this crazy contraption to embody both risk and certainty in unusual and surprising ways.
Mm.
Jeff was talking about this is not just a handy jig; it's actually kind of crazy to use, but it creates this interesting faceted look of these flutes that run down.
Mm.
So Jeff is one of the few people, I don't know anyone else who built the fluting engine and experimented. And so it's really worthwhile to take a look at what Jeff did.
Mm-hmm. So if I were to find some common thread through this, I'd say this is kind of about the beauty of the vernacular, right? The fact that coarseness is not a demerit against an object that was handmade. It's actually adds to the beauty of it, this variety, this different surface textures and things like that. And there's so much in here that speaks to that, besides just Ruskin. Joshua talking about his sons learning, these hand skills, how to make things by hand. Even the table exam, you're looking and you're seeing coarseness and you're finding beauty in that. I think that the beauty of the vernacular really comes through in this issue. So David Pye, John Ruskin, if these kinds of concepts are really important to you, check out issue 10.